All right. Thank you, Scott. Another great presentation, and that brings us to our final session of the day, our digital circle. And these are always inspiring to me. I love having these conversations with our speakers, and today should be no exception. We're joined by an esteemed panel. We have Yuri Yushkov, CEO of Velvetech. Welcome, Yuri.
Hello, everyone.
All right. We also have Brian Sagers, President and Senior Consultant at Techo Systems, another Techo Systems representative. Here we are.
Thank you. Hello.
All right, welcome. And last but certainly not least, we have Clayton Locke, Director of Lockhaven Limited. Welcome, Clayton.
Thanks, Eric. Hello, everybody.
All right, excellent. And not that we haven't prepared you for this, but the topic of the session today, guys, is the future of professional services. Right? We're going to want to talk about where we see professional services going. What are the trends and the impacts that they're going to have on the industry? So I know that each of you have just tremendous experience in this space, so should be a great session for the audience. And to kind of kick that off, I'll start with kind of an abstract question, I guess, right? If we look to the future, what do you think the professional service industry is going to look like in, let's say, 2025? What do you see that, how do you see the industry transforming? I'll throw it out there. I don't want to pick anybody, so I'll just throw it out there. Whoever wants to pick it up, picks it up. How's that?
I'll pick it up. I think 4 years, when I first said 2025, I was like, oh, that's a long time from now. And it's like, oh,
it's really not.
3 years from now. It's not that long. I think like a lot of industries, I think we're going to see, we need automation. We need simplicity. It's funny that usually professional services can range in type, but a lot of time is technology based. But doing this for 25 years, it's kind of the whole, the cobbler's shoes, kids' shoes are always bad. Sometimes are slow to adopt or slow to add efficiencies. Sometimes even in the systems we sell and implement. We're at a size that's not a problem, but partnering with bigger organizations, a lot of times those professional services organizations are not as technologically advanced as they should be. I think that's changed significantly. And I think that will be the biggest change for some of those organizations moving forward. I think that workforce is also getting younger, which I think is going to help the skill. I think there is a lack of skilled professional services workers out there. I think hopefully that lack now will become more education and training in schools. It seems like there's always a cycle of this is the next big hot job because there's a large demand. And I think that demand is growing to some degree. It'll be interesting to see as low code, no code comes into play and becomes more relevant, if the shift of that knowledge worker changes from, there's still going to need to be developers, but is it more going to be more of an analyst role? I guess that's more of a thought than a prediction on that from my standpoint.
It's an interesting thought though, right? Because I think you bring up a good point. Like, I think within professional services, sometimes we can breathe our own exhaust for such a long time that we kind of, get set and this is the way it is. And I think that new blood coming in, as you mentioned, is going to bring, just a greater sense to those types of organizations. So I'm with you on that. Yuri, Clayton, what are your thoughts?
Sure. I can predict that professional services industry is going to continue to run on process, people, and tools, meaning technology. And as you consider low code, no code, and automation, you can see the impact which is going to be made in each of these three areas by the evolving tools. And I see that the shortage in talent is going to continue to be a challenge for a lot of professional services organizations as they start to compete globally for the talent. And another thing which is going to be very important, is extreme teaming which is defined as providing the leadership to the teams, ability to build the teams and set the goals and objectives and common benefits that drive the team to reaching those goals. These are the areas where technology is going to help tremendously, and we are very excited to see the evolution of tools that requires less time to tool to the process and tool to perfect workflow or improve the workflow on a continuous basis. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for all of us to participate in this trend.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I agree. And just to maybe to add some perspective, doing many years as a consultant, I mean, maybe on the face of it, not my main point, but the face of it, I used to get on an airplane on Sunday night, travel to the client site, be there for 4 days overnight, and then fly home. And that was an important part of a consulting engagement, both as a strategy consultant, but also in developing applications for clients. We're not doing that anymore. I don't think that's going to happen. That's a really high cost way of delivering business. And so there's, an overall, let's say, digital transformation of professional services in each of the different types of professional services, from strategy consulting all the way to application development that Brian mentioned. But I think the other, as we look ahead, and as Brian said, 4 years out, not too far from now, actually, and you can see the other big trend that I see happening is that the service offering has got an IP core. There's intellectual property at the core of the professional services value, and it's got a service wrapper around it. There's still a people-oriented business, but at the core of many of these services is high technology. So a couple of good examples. One is what Ernst Young is doing with what they call client technology. So the EY client technology group within Ernst Young has got they've reported that they're going to be investing over $1 billion over the next few years in the technology that their consultants and accountants use to deliver their service to EY clients. And that tool set that they're using will continue to evolve. So if EY can build a tool on a low-code platform that allows them to rapidly and at lower cost evolve those tools that they're using and the engagements that they have with clients, that puts them in a better position, both with the client and also against the competition. Mm-hmm. And the technology that the professional services firms are using, where they're embedding their IP, also is getting pretty extreme too. An example there would be, that I think is fascinating, is what McKinsey is doing with their quantum black unit. So they've I don't think this is the only example either, but just one example would be what McKinsey is doing to get into AI and machine learning, and to build solutions that can be then used in client situations, but to actually incubate those to generate innovation and to come up with IP that they'll wrap the McKinsey service around going forward. So I think we're going to see a lot more IP-led services coming out of professional services.
Yeah, that's a huge point, right? You have these types of organizations now; they're becoming software companies, right? They're developing. Everybody is becoming a software organization. So I see that happening as well. I mean, even outside of professional services, we see that financial services as well, right? Big financial service advisors, becoming technology companies as well. So I definitely would agree with that. Let's bring it back to present day now, though. So if we took a look at what the top business challenges are for professional services today, what would they be, and kind of what do they need to do to overcome them?
Well, the problems that the world is being challenged with become more and more complex. Last year has clearly proved it, and the collaboration becomes cross-border, cross-organization, cross-subject domain. So the people of knowledge and skill to a system that work, the challenges are the availability, the ability to retain the knowledge, improve it, accumulate that, and have the talent pool that is being replenished or updated on board properly with that. And as they become the part of the member organization or the part of the professional services organization, that firm really needs to have all tools in place to groom this talent and to provide them the opportunity to grow professionally and in terms of their productivity. I think searching for the key productivity improvements is never-ending story, and we are going to continue to work in that direction. So that is what I would like to mention.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I want to continue this discussion, but I also want to bring the audience into this. So I'm going to launch our first poll, guys, before we get some other opinions. Audience, thinking about the challenges that directly impact your business, please, of the examples that you see here, choose one that impacts your organization the most. And just for you guys, I don't know if you're seeing the poll, but it's optimizing client experience, managing skill shortages, capacity planning, choosing the right technology, or headcount utilization. So we'll see how that pans out. But Clayton, I didn't mean to step on you there. I think you were going to jump in on
yeah, you were looking
Yuri's comment.
That's right. Well, I was going to build on what Yuri said in terms of the tools and maybe focus specifically on challenges that I'm really familiar with. I work with companies in business development. And that's always a challenge, isn't it? But as we're kind of looking ahead, one thing that we found is that when we're in, say, in a sales situation, working on an opportunity, prospects today or customers today expect even more. They expect a demo of the solution. Yeah. So in a professional services consulting engagement, but certainly in an application development engagement, in the past we tend to do a lot of PowerPoint presentations. There are a lot of kind of conversations about business requirements, but not a lot of solution being presented. In fact, the advice was don't come too quickly with a solution. The first thing you need to do is really understand the business problem and their requirements, and then maybe 6 months later, they'll see a prototype of the solution. Well, today it's in the second meeting, second or third meeting, they want to see a prototype of the solution. And then in the third meeting, you've customized the solution to meet the unique requirements that the customer has talked about. Maybe not all of them, but they can see how rapidly you can customize it. Now, of course, you got to go into that selling situation with that core IP that I talked about. So, you got to have that going in. You can't start from scratch. Once you have it, though, you're in a selling situation with the demo and, rapidly turning that around. That's just one area where I think it's very challenging. You can see how low code really helps you out if you've got that capability. But there is a challenge to how we sell, and I think all businesses, all professional services businesses have to step up to that new challenge in business development.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I definitely want to hear what Brian has to say, but I also wanted to bring it, like I said, the audience into this, and overwhelmingly, the results were choosing the right technology, followed not so close second here, but optimizing the client experience. So really about selecting that right technology, right? That's having the biggest impact on the audience today. So Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's actually two of those things kind of hit me hard. I think our dispersed workforce is both a blessing and a curse in a professional services organization. We used to work in an environment where a bunch of developers and project managers and leadership was all in the same four walls, and there was a lot of travel, but you could go sit at somebody's desk or turn around to the guy next to you, and that's all changed. And technology has helped that change, and it's been the blessing that you can hire people in a much more dispersed area geography instead of just looking locally. The challenge is keeping that communication and project structure in place for a good experience is one. The other one falls into that second one that came in on the poll, the customer experience. I think we're all working towards a customer experience that's been driven by a lot of other technologies that are starting to infringe into professional services and other places, where the customer really expects more information, better information, more access to that information. They don't want a report sent every Friday. They want a portal. The expectation now is closer to, when I'm getting a delivery from Amazon, say, not only do I know when it's going to get here, heck, if it's UPS, I can probably watch where the truck is on the map. That expectation experience of buying and relationship is getting pushed down into some of our other, what we're seeing in professional services and other places as well, for that customer experience of delivery and management.
Yeah. Those customer demands keep growing, right? We want that experience in everything in our lives at this point. So absolutely. And if we look at how the professional services industry, there's a lot of diversification. We also see a lot of disruption. Like you said, now there's new customer demands that they have to deal with. If we look at those outside factors coming in on professional service organizations, what do they need to do to keep resilient and be able to adapt to those changes very quickly? And I'll pose that one to Yuri, because I think I see him waiting. He looked like he was waiting to chime in.
Well, any company can go through the challenge in the downturn, and in order to get back on track, they really need to have a strategy in place, and they need to be able to plan for tackling those outside challenges and be aligned on the inside to combat and to bring the resources fast enough and be able to adapt those resources to the types of processes they run internally. They need to stay on top of their customer acquisition structure and use capital properly in order to plan for certain types of marketing campaigns and whatnot. And in order to operate as the sustainable business with projected growth rates, you need to have all elements of your infrastructure, people and tools aligned to each other in order to deliver on that strategy. So I think the company that is looking forward to continue to be a leader and be an example of working as very efficient from the capital perspective and also from the brand, they need to have all those tools and processes in very good shape. Lots of companies are still operating using spreadsheet and models that are proven, but as they need to plug that into specific markets or specific products that they need to innovate and bring to the market, it really is evident that the spreadsheet is good to have, but you really need to stay ahead and be aligned properly.
Great point. Great point.
Anyone else? Maybe briefly on just on business model in consulting, if I stick with that in terms of professional services. You look at professional services, obviously there are multiple sectors in there, from strategy houses to the big four to large scale system integrators, etc. But the, the most resilient companies are the ones that do more than deliver advice, don't they? And I think this is probably true across the sectors, that even if we look at a company that is doing software development, and in the past what they were about was delivering, say, bespoke applications to a client. Today, that's not enough to be resilient, in my opinion. I think with software as a service, with the cloud, those businesses have to start moving into operations. So they are the ones that are actually managing the application on the cloud. They're delivering the software as a service. Essentially, it's outsourcing. Their client is outsourcing that to them. Their client's probably focused much more on the front end of their business, the selling and marketing of the client service, and the professional services firm is doing a build and operate in the back end of that. So I think that is important to resiliency, because of course that puts some longer term recurring revenue underneath the professional services firm. And of course, the major example that we have of that is Accenture, and what Accenture has done over the years to do just that, with major outsource centers in India and so on, to keep them resilient and tough.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And while we were talking, we launched a poll of the audience, and talking about resilience and how they're looking to one, protect their own their organization, but also how we're going to help them grow. So we looked at the following aspects of part of the operations or organization's growth strategy. And we had a couple of different options here, guys: growth of existing clients, new product solution launches, managing operational costs, mergers and acquisitions, geographic expansion, or other. And nearly half of the audience said growth of existing clients, right? So I think that that kind of speaks to how do we look at our account base and ensure that we're holding on to them, and also managing your operational costs, right? Having to manage those operational costs at a close second on that one. So interesting statistics there. Perfect. So Brian, as we're talking about resilience, let's also talk about since it is the low code marathon, we gotta bring up low code, right? How do you think low code development really helps professional service organizations and consultants? How can they leverage low code tools to help them with resilience and growth?
All right, so this is an interesting one. This is an interesting one from a professional services standpoint, because some of your more traditional dollars for hours professional services companies, this can negatively affect to some degree, right? I can do something now in half an hour that used to be a 4-hour job, or because it was coding, it was a 2-day job because I had to spec it and I had to send it out to a developer. That is a reduction in hours. So you have to be, from a professional service standpoint, the challenge to that is you have to kind of alter your methodology, alter your value proposition. Interestingly, this is something we've done for a long time. We've always leaned at products that were dynamic and fast to implement. And that goes back to the previous question with resiliency and customer growth. You can do more, be more integrated with that customer when they make a request, and you can respond fairly quickly and fairly cost effectively. The next time they have a thought or request, they're much more apt to ask. In the old days, it was like, oh, it'd be cool if we did this, but they know that's a month, that's $10,000. And now, a lot of times we'll get that request and it's, oh yeah, it's a couple days, you can see it next week. Or sometimes you can see it tomorrow, depending on workload. So it's a shift, but it's also a challenge. If you don't adjust to that challenge, it's a reduction in billable hours if you're a billing an hours for dollars company. So that's the challenge side of it. The positive side of it is you can be much more fluid. You can be much more of a thought leadership partner than a technology partner, which to me, the technology side of that partnership is more of a commodity. The thought leadership is more of a relationship. And so if you can shift that service you're delivering to being more of a partner and more of an extension of the organization, I think that's a big advantage. But it's also how the industry, how low code, I think affects it. I think it's a two-sided effect there. And one of the sides is a challenge. I won't call it a negative. I will call it a challenge to some organizations.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's, so you look at that from a billable hours perspective, but I kind of take a different approach as well. You can also look at it as, can I have the opportunity to complete more projects? Can I put more of my backlog to completed and take on additional projects, therefore helping my organization? So I think it's an interesting, but you're right. It's an interesting conundrum. Yet it's a mind shift, right, for professional service organizations. Clayton, Yuri, what are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Clayton.
Okay, just very briefly, just on Brian's point, which is a great point. Is the idea that sparks in my mind is that if you're, as a professional services firm, you have a portfolio of clients. And so your resilience as a consulting firm really depends on the resilience of your clients and your client portfolio. So if they drop off because they're not as competitive, then you obviously are going to have more of a problem, or you're going to have to acquire new clients. And what I'd say low code does is it helps your clients also be more competitive and more resilient in the marketplace. So by working with them, by delivering solutions that are built on a low-code platform, you're making yourself more resilient as well. But I absolutely agree with Brian's point. Maybe one other thing to say on that is that because technology, particularly technology in the past, has required a high degree of expertise to deliver business applications, you also have the impact on your own organization, of the senior developers and architects who have invested their careers in learning, how to build complex applications. And so I don't know, maybe Yuri, you seem to be, plugged into the organizational impacts of that. But I do think that is another issue in addition to lost billing hours.
Yeah. And Yuri, I'm going to let you answer that in just a second, because I want to be sure that we get our last poll in here, because we're coming up on time. It's been such a great discussion where I've lost track of time. So I got to squeeze in the last poll. And the last poll for the audience: which of the following best describes how much your organization will invest or have already invested in hardware and software and in 2021? It's a look at how much did they spend in 2020 versus 2021. So I'll be interested to see the results of that. But Yuri, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I wanted to build upon what Brian has said. You really can benefit from rethinking your business model and how you offer this service, how you sell the service. Relying just on selling consultants' time is not going to cut it for you. You really need to rethink your overall service package offering and bring solutions to the customer. And those solutions, they can be architected based on the low code, because in my view, it's the most efficient way to package your expertise as a process, as a workflow, and come to a client, to existing client or prospect, fully prepared to help them on a number of different pain points, where the customer wouldn't just rely on access to a consultant with the subject domain knowledge or certain skill set of how certain things can be done or should be done. You can actually own that pain point for a customer, and you can deploy a solution in a managed delivery approach. And we all see how the DevOps is flourishing. We see how certain business process outsourcing is providing the add-on value in a number of industries, whether it's logistics and wholesale distribution, or it's life sciences, healthcare, how you can come to, let's say, an employee wellness management plan with a very nice tooled solution and take over the patient engagement, or how you can help behavioral practice with the solution to run their patient engagement and help those customers who are in a crisis with certain types of solutions that deliver their care in a most efficient way. Those companies, they rely on professional services firms like IT, like telehealth, like I don't know, you name it, accounting or business development type companies. Business development is a perfect example. When you are becoming in charge of lead gen for a company, you can use fully automated marketing channels through a number of lead generation platforms, whether it's social or search or telemarketing through the voice and calling on prospects. And then you deliver the opportunities that the company can take over and plug into their revenue cycle and manage in their sales pipeline. This couldn't be possible without low-code and marketing automation platforms, the way they evolved, the way partners and solution providers like Creatio bring them to the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great points. Great points. And yeah, I'm listening to all this, and I'm kind of dumbfounded at the poll, guys. Like I fully envisioned it going a different way. So asking if we're spending more or less in 2021 than we did in 2020. We had 35% come in and said that they're spending somewhat more than they did in 2020. And about 20% said that they're spending about the same. I fully expected it to say a lot more than in 2020. So I think that leaves, you guys got to get the audience attendance list and have some discussions. If they're going to make it to 2025, Brian, right? If they're going to make it there and make it to the professional service organization of the future, you got to invest, right? You have to invest. Well, gentlemen, I think that brings us pretty close to time. I want to thank each of you. I mean, it's been a great discussion. I'm not joking when I said I lost track of time in this discussion. It could go on. We need a full hour session, I believe. But Yuri, Clayton, Brian, just a phenomenal session. The chat was alive with comments about how insightful your comments were. And we really appreciate having you here on the Low Code Marathon. And I know you've had multiple sessions, so thank you once again.
Thank you all for coming, and thanks, Eric and Brian and Clayton.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, guys.
Yep.
See you. Have a great day.
Thanks. All right.